everyone. Thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Here's what we're looking at. Chicago may be closing out 2025 with its fewest homicides in years.
At every stage, residents were blindsided, excluded, and ignored.
Some Southside residents are pushing for voters to weigh in on the new quantum campus development.
Clean slate, clean slate, clean slate, clean slate.
A clean slate and a new beginning, we explain. And the latest edition of WTTW News Explains, it lays out Chicago's alcohol rules. First off tonight, 2025 saw a dramatic drop in homicides for the city of Chicago, potentially the lowest in more than half a century. City data shows there were 411 homicides recorded between the first of the year and December 27th, a 30% decline compared to the same time last year. The city also reports the numbers of shootings, robberies, and carjackings are all also down by double-digit percentages. Chicago's homicide rate peaked in the 90s with almost 34 homicides per 100,000 residents. This year, it's 14.6, according to data from the University of Chicago Crime Lab. For more on this story, visit our website. Public health officials say flu activity has jumped in the past week and is still climbing. The Cook County Department of Public Health says emergency room visits for the flu have nearly tripled in the past week and are above where they were this time in 2024. Additionally, the percent of ER visits for flu in children is twice as high as this time last year. Officials recommend masking in certain settings, like the waiting room, if you or any member of your household is high risk. They say while activity levels for COVID and RSV are currently low, they are increasing. Up next, a major technological development on the city's south side raises some concerns. That's right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
Neighbors living near the future Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park are pushing back against the billion-dollar 128-acre mega development, but in different ways. Their concerns are over gentrification and environmental impact, but developers say the project will create jobs and protect the environment. Joining us now are Jerry Worley, a coordinator with Southside Together, Jorge Perez, a community member and owner of Chico's Bakery, Moises Moreno, organizing director with Alliance of the Southeast, and on Zoom, Samir Mayakar, managing director of the Polskoy Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the University of Chicago, and former deputy mayor under former Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Now, we did invite 10th Ward Alderman Peter Chico, who accepted but then had to cancel earlier today. We also invited the developer, Related Midwest, but they declined. Related did send us a statement, though, and we'll get to that in a moment. We thank the three of you and our fourth guest on Zoom. We thank you all for joining us as well. Jerry Worley, starting with you. Southside Together's effort is to have a non-binding referendum on the March primary ballot. Why do you think this should be put to a vote?
So that way, because it's just been saying that the residents want this facility, the referendum is our way, because we went out knocking on doors to get their opinion, and we got over 300 signatures saying that they are opposed to this facility.
Okay. What would the referendum do if it's non-binding?
If it's non-binding, well, honestly, we are just looking for the facility just to not be there.
To not be there at all. You've been on the record that you don't want it built at all.
At all.
What are your concerns?
Pollution, displacement, and then also just in the sheer power that it uses already. Like it powers like a third of a nuclear power plant, meaning like it's over 200,000 homes. Illinois itself, apparently they just put out there's a energy deficit. So I guess the answer is to build something else that's going to take up more energy.
Okay. Moises, over to you. You're taking sort of a different approach. You're calling for a community benefits agreement instead. What would that do?
So basically it would bring community members and the developers and the city to the table to negotiate a binding community benefits agreement that would address the needs of the community, similar to what Jerry's talking about, to address displacement, the environment, local hiring, prioritizing local hiring for longtime residents, also taking on the data center. Speaking of the data centers, we want to see like this policy as well that could be included, not just as part of the CBA, but also to help prevent displacement and really put a hold and regulate some of these new industries that are coming into our communities. Getting the red carpet treatment is already getting taxpayer funding. So if residents in the Southeast side that we've been working with, they want something. They want something tangible, right? We're paying for this development, so it's natural that residents want something and they want to be part of these negotiations. Related
Midwest has said that they have had over 50 public meetings and events with thousands of residents. What do you think the relationship with Related Midwest has been like?
I mean, the fact that they're not sitting here at the table is pretty evident. We've been also knocking on doors. We've been inviting them to our community meetings as well. They haven't been showing up. This is missed opportunities, really, to listen to the residents who do want a community benefits agreement at the Southwark site. So we do see this as a win-win for the community, but when the developers and stakeholders and public officials are at the table.
Jorge, you are also a longtime community member, owner of Chico's Bakery there.
Chico's Oven.
Chico's Oven. Thank you for we want to get it right, everybody, in case anybody needs.
That's another business, I guess, somewhere.
Okay, in case well, there you go. Now you've got an idea. You support the park. Tell us why.
Absolutely. So I grew up, lived there. I think I'm the only one in this table here that actually lives a few blocks from the site. I've got a business that I grew up in. Reopened it. It was my parents' bakery. My dad was a steel worker, was also a baker, taught us how to bake, and I mothballed the building for the last 30 years and reopened the bakery 4 years ago with the hope that one day something would happen on the Southwark site. And when this came along, very enthusiastically embraced it. I don't know who they've talked to, but a lot of the folks that we've talked to, a lot of my customers, a lot of my neighbors, friends and families have been waiting for 33 years since this steel mill closed for something to happen. And it definitely needed to be something big. And I think we definitely are fitting that now.
Are you concerned that, you know, if residents and neighbors are not interested in having this massive development and facility in the community, what do you think you'd be missing out on?
If it doesn't come here?
If it doesn't happen.
Well, then basically it's what's happened the last 30 years, which is nothing. There's been no economic development on the Southeast side for the last 33 years. There's been spurts here and there, but nothing really major to this magnitude that takes advantage of this and is really being approached in a sort of holistic way. You know, we jokingly say that we have nice stuff in South Chicago. It's in Hyde Park or it's in Northwest Indiana. And here's a chance to fill that donut hole, to say, look, how do we actually take advantage of this opportunity, capitalize it for residents, for folks, and to invite everyone into this community.
Samir, I want to get you in here because first, quantum computing can be confusing for many of us. A lot of us don't even know what it is. So would you clarify that for us?
Hey, Brandis. Yeah, I'm happy to. And I'm not a physicist. So I'll try my best to explain this in a way that all of us can understand. You know, quantum computing represents the next generation of computing. And so you think of today's supercomputers, like the one that we have at Argonne National Labs. Quantum computing is the next generation of power. So if you think of computing like unlocking a door, imagine that you have a set of keys. Now, a traditional computer today has to go in sequence and try each key. But what's so powerful about a quantum computer is that you can use all of the keys at once to unlock that door. And that's a whole new level of power that can then advance industries from healthcare to financial services to national defense and on, and really unlock new economies.
All that said, why do you think Chicago and this site in particular, why do you think that they are right for this development?
Well, you know, I think we can take a generational setback in what Jorge mentioned was the kind of abandonment from the steel industry of this site in 1992 to now having it be a generational opportunity with quantum computing, because we're in the midst of a global competition in quantum computing. China's making huge investments here. Europe is making huge investments. And the reality is here in Chicago, we have the highest amount of federal funding coming to the quantum sector. We have the highest amount of publications and research happening between the major university systems like UChicago. And now this site, which is bigger than the Loop, it's over 400 acres. You have a generational opportunity to bring jobs and investment to a site that, as Jorge alluded to, really needs investment.
So in a statement, I want to get to what Related Midwest has sent us. And they tell us in a statement, quote, after a comprehensive and collaborative process that included over 50 public meetings and events attended by more than 15,000 residents, the approved plan includes the full and complete remediation of the entire 440-acre property to protect residents and the environment while creating a vibrant hub for innovation, manufacturing, and research on the South Side. It also says that Related Midwestern partners, they look forward to creating thousands of jobs, investing in local schools, transforming once vacant land into new housing, and expanding and preserving 100 acres of parkland as well. Jerry, does none of this allay your concerns?
So the concern is not that we are against innovation, we're not against industry. We're against our neighborhoods being overburdened by companies coming in and wanting to test out things in our neighborhood instead of just actively coming to ask what we would like to have there. I've been a resident in South Shore for now about 3 years. I personally have not received any notifications from Related Midwest about coming to these community meetings. The first I even heard of the Quantum facility is when I initially heard about Southside Together from a flyer on my door. So personally, from any of the companies like this, the bigger companies that's a part of it, I have not directly received any of these notifications about it until I met with Southside Together. And then that's what I found out about the things that comes along with having a facility of this magnitude.
Jorge.
You know, this is what's fascinating about this, because it's sort of the Johnny-come-lately here. It was a year ago that they made the announcement on this. And correct me if I'm wrong, South Shore is not South Chicago. South Chicago is everything south of 79th Street, South Chicago Avenue, east of the lake. That's probably why. It's not your neighborhood. We've been informed from the get-go. We've been engaged with it. All the meetings, both as a resident, my family members. You know, as a business, we had an opportunity to cater a lot of the events. They really reached out and did a lot and included us in a lot of these conversations and really answered a lot. And I think all of these kind of concerns are things that are just honestly being misplaced or misinformed, because I don't know where you've been. You weren't even around in the last year. You probably just recently got hired. So he's not from the neighborhood. You're not from the neighborhood. The customers I talk to on a daily basis, folks that I talk to in the neighborhood, come to me regularly. The sentiment has been wonderful over the last year. All the excitement of residents, customers coming to my window telling me, is this real? Is this really happening? And to see this actually build up, the momentum has really been fascinating.
Moises?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for, appreciate you doing your homework and looking me up. I represent a coalition. Coalition for South
Chicago.
I'm here to represent a coalition for the South Side.
Man.
I'm from Chicago. So let me clarify.
You're not from Bush. I'm from Bush.
I do want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
Jorge.
that. Yeah, and who have we been talking to? We've been talking to people from Bush. We went to New Sullivan. We went to Bowen. Okay, and guess what? 79. Are you gonna cut me off? You're gonna let me speak?
Go ahead.
You're gonna let me speak?
Finish.
Okay. Can you be quiet while I speak, though?
He will. Jorge's
Okay.
going to be quiet. Please,
Okay.
please continue, because I want to get
just,
Samir back in
Just
here.
a quick geography. I mean, you're misinformed yourself, because yes, the development does cover part of South Shore. So I advise you to do a little bit more homework.
Going?
Do a little bit more homework before you antagonize us, because first and foremost, we do support the development. Our leaders do support the development. So I don't know where you're coming from. Gentleman is misinformed here. Not my fault. But yeah, I want to just simply say we are a coalition. We represent 30 organizations, including churches, block clubs, okay, small businesses that are near your small business, and they don't want to get pushed out. They support this development. So I want to give you some knowledge right here, right now.
Samir
we
Mayakar.
support this development, and we want a community benefit.
You're making all that up, man.
Okay,
Just
so
stop.
Samir Mayakar, what
Everything's
more
public.
do you think the city and developers could do to work with community members about their concerns? They say they've had lots of meetings, the environmental remediation, those concerns have been met. Is there more that the organization could do?
Well, look, community engagement, I certainly know this from my previous role. It's a continuous spectrum. And you have a coalition as a part of this development of universities, of businesses, you have residents, and other community organizations involved. I know for a fact that they're going to be releasing a new quality of life plan in early 2026 for this broader area. So, engagement doesn't stop just because the groundbreaking already happened for this site. It's going to be a continuous dialogue. And I think what gives me a lot of hope is the fact that you are seeing so much ancillary investment happening as a result of the IQMP moving forward. For example, you have Advocate, who announced a $300 million new hospital on this site. And, you know, I'm someone who spent a lot of time thinking about investments on the south and the west side. And this site, for many years, it was described by the local elected officials, by the community members. It was like Charlie Brown with the football. You know, there were multiple developments that were in front of the community. They never happened. They couldn't get financed. And now you have something that has financing, that already broke ground. I have to credit the state tremendously with helping to get this moving forward. And now you have follow-on investments from Advocate, IBM, the U.S. Department of Defense, and the list goes on. So this is a generational opportunity that I haven't seen
Samir,
in my life doing economic development.
Before we run out of time, Samir, what is the likelihood that the city and or related could be interested in a CBA, for example?
Well, you know, I don't speak for them, but what I do believe is that everyone shares this common sense that you have to be a good neighbor. This has to be an environmentally friendly development. And in fact, this technology, it really doesn't have emissions. And so it's going to be a much cleaner development than what used to be on this site, which was a steel mill. And then secondly, this needs to create jobs. So the unemployment rate in South Chicago, it is 500% higher than downtown. 5 times the unemployment rate. And I think what I've heard from community members, and I'm a fellow Southsider, is that we need jobs, and that's exactly what this development can bring, is jobs and investment.
All right, we've got about 45 seconds left, Moises, and then I'm going to try and get to you, Jerry.
So just to reference Samir, yes, we're also part of the Quality of Life Plan. We participated in it this year as part of the Alliance of the Southeast, and Community Benefits Agreement should be part of that vision for South Chicago.
Jerry?
I just want to point out that something being legal and compliant doesn't necessarily make it right. So they usually, with these particular things, they use legal and compliant as the ceiling when it needs to be the bare minimum. So just because you're meeting these standards, it doesn't necessarily mean that these standards are going to appease the environment and the people around it.
Long road ahead, gentlemen, because this thing is nowhere near being built. Some of you would like for it to stop entirely. So a lot to figure out.
Everyone.
That is where we'll have to leave it. My thanks to all of you, Samir Mayakar on Zoom, Jorge Perez, Jerry Worley, and Moises Moreno. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Up next, activists push for an easier pathway to seal criminal records. Illinois state lawmakers this year passed hundreds of new laws, one of which is the Clean Slate Act. 2 years ago, we brought you the series Permanent Punishment, where we explored the challenges people face after they've served a sentence in prison. One of them was record sealing, a way of making those convictions only available to certain institutions like law enforcement. Now, activists hope they've created a path to making that process much easier for those who need it.
Nobody's asking what was your experience when you go through these programs.
Activist Marlon Chamberlain has been driving this issue for a long time.
If you filled out a slip, made a phone call, sent the email, like this is a win for us. Like we went to the Capitol saying, clean slate can't wait.
He and thousands of others like him have finally notched a win.
Feels good, feels good. But the way I'm wired, my brain is instantly thinking about implementation, but this was a huge milestone.
He's referring to the Clean Slate Act, passed during the fall veto session in Springfield. The legislation is designed to automate the sealing of certain criminal offenses. Currently, more than 2 million people in Illinois are eligible to have their records sealed, but haven't acted on what is currently a cumbersome, lengthy process.
You can talk to one person who would say, hey, because I was well connected, supported in sort of like the nonprofit space, I had access to attorneys. And so for me, it took 6 months. But then there are some who we've spoken to where it's been a 3-year waiting period where it's court dates that were rescheduled, canceled, or you didn't have access to an attorney.
That's not true justice. Justice is when it's fair and equitable and open for everyone.
State Senator L.G. Sims was one of the bill's chief sponsors.
Sealing allows for law enforcement, allows for certain governmental entities to still have access to the information. It wouldn't make the public any less safe, but it would make that information not available to private entities, so that individuals would have access to housing, access to employment, access to education.
Give her a hand, y'all. Give her a hand.
37-year-old Julian Sims was released from prison 3 years ago after serving time on drug-related charges.
When I was incarcerated, I got my culinary areas. I actually had my electrician certification in there too.
Could you get a job as an electrician after you got out?
No, because what they told me was I wasn't allowed to go on people's houses because I was a criminal. I have a background.
As with the current sealing laws, the legislation only applies to misdemeanors, ordinance violations, and Class 1 through 4 felony convictions, unless they involve violence. So, no murder convictions, DUIs, or Class X felonies like armed robbery or sexual assault. The new legislation also removes the drug testing requirement to seal felony drug convictions. Chamberlain, a longtime advocate and someone who's served time for federal drug charges himself, says passing the Clean Slate Act is just the beginning. Hundreds of state and local laws prevent system-impacted people from moving on.
There's restrictions around volunteering at your children's schools, certain professional licensing that folks can't have with the rest of the conviction record. So there's a list over 1,000 statutes that we have cataloged that still exist. And our goal is to build a permanent institution so that we can continue long after Marlon decides to retire. We want this fight continued until we have eliminated all of those statutes.
For now, Julian Sims says a clean slate is at least a start.
I want to start a class that I could teach automotive so that I could put in my neighborhoods to grow my neighborhood, because I feel if they got more opportunities, they got better ways to grow them.
They get a lot of grant money, but
Governor Pritzker is expected to sign the Clean Slate Act into law next month. Some Republican lawmakers did vote against the bill, saying it allows criminals to repeatedly have their records clean without repercussions. The law would go into effect next summer before the first phase of records will automatically be sealed on January 1st, 2029. We're back with more right after this.
Reflecting the people and perspectives that make up our communities, this story is part of Chicago Tonight, Black Voices.
New Year's Eve is nearly here, and if your plans include alcohol, you should know the law. Where, when, and how can you drink? Our Nick Blumberg has the details in tonight's edition of WTTW News Explains.
Chicago may have become virtually synonymous with speakeasies during Prohibition, but that doesn't mean the Windy City is lawless when it comes to drinking. In fact, we've got a lot of rules on the books governing when and where we can enjoy an adult beverage. New York might be the city that never sleeps, but Chicagoans can be night owls too. Carousers looking to party into the wee hours of the morning just need to keep an eye on the clock. Bars can't sell liquor after 2 a.m. most nights or 3 a.m. on early Sunday morning at the tail end of a wild Saturday night. Of course, that's unless they have a coveted 4 a.m. license, which actually extends till 5 a.m. on Sundays. If you want to take the party home, you better have planned ahead. Liquor stores and supermarkets have to stop selling alcohol at midnight every night of the week. Whether you rise Sunday with a powerful need to chase away a hangover or just your standard Sunday scaries, you're in luck. A boozy brunch is just around the corner. Thanks to a recent move from the City Council, restaurants and bars that serve food can start selling alcohol at 9 o'clock on Sunday mornings. You used to have to wait until after 11. And if you want to whip up those brunch mimosas at home, the liquor stores can't ring you up until 11 a.m. on Sundays, but supermarkets can sell you a bottle of bubbly starting at 8 a.m. And some of the barriers to imbibing aren't just about time, they're also about place. The city won't issue liquor licenses near most libraries and churches, or schools, hospitals, and nursing homes. And residents can use the power of the ballot box to banish all liquor sales in the precinct where they live. Perhaps one of the best-known boozy no-goes is in Chicago's adult establishments. Alcohol is prohibited in places that allow fully nude dancing. The City Council did ease the rules in recent years to allow alcohol sales in bars and clubs with occasional topless performances, with the intention of drawing a crowd more art connoisseur than base voyeur. Or at least so we heard from a friend. So yeah, we've got rules, but with nearly 200 breweries, several local distilleries, and a questionable obsession with a borderline unpalatable digestif, Chicago is still a drinking town. It just sometimes takes an ounce or two of preparation.
And for more WTTW News Explains videos, be sure to check out our website. And that's our show for this Tuesday night. Join us tomorrow as we ring in the new year with an encore edition of Year in Review, where we break down some of the year's biggest stories. And then we're off Thursday for the holiday, but we'll be back Friday for the Week in Review as we sit down with our reporters and talk about the stories they'll be watching out for in 2026. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a happy new year.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that gives back to its community in Chicago and beyond.